some time to think about this. I actually saw it opening Thursday. I also saw it the next day with Jeff, and I'm kind of letting the emotion of it and the fact that I've actually been listening to what other people have been saying about this movie, and well, I'll try to make this not sound like I'm rambling. So yeah, in my opinion, the critics are 100% wrong. Here's my thoughts on Dark Phoenix.
Fantasy, and there's no way out for you and me.
This movie takes place in the X-Men universe, even though it's not called X-Men Dark Phoenix for some reason. But we continue the decade hopping gimmick that they started in First Class, which took place in the 60s. The 70s is Days of Futures Past. The 80s is Apocalypse, and this one we have Dark Phoenix. I like this movie. I don't know what else to say. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this movie really a lot. One of the things alright, let's get to the story real quick before I go into my gush fest and before I go into my bitch fest. The story is, we're in the 90s, mutants are accepted. I don't know how after the ending of Apocalypse, but we'll get to that later. There is a disaster that happens in space. The X-Men have to fix it. Along the way, Jean Grey gets infected with a cosmic force, as they say in this movie, and it heightens her ability. Along that line, there is another party who comes to extract or take that entity from Jean Grey. That's the bare nuts and bolts of it all. So, why did I like it? I liked it because not only was the acting really good in this movie, you have James McAvoy playing Professor Xavier again for the 4th time, and is there anything this man can do wrong? James McAvoy, this is his, 3rd movie this year. He was in Glass. He just does a lot of stuff, and he's really good in all of it. Michael Fassbender, for the limited amount of time he's in this movie for, does a really good job selling his role. Nicholas Hoult, who I just saw in Token, I never realized how... I always look at that weird quirk in the way his mouth is. Like, he's always like this. But he is a really good actor, and he can emote, and he does it well in this movie. Sophie Turner's really good in this movie. I enjoyed Tye Sheridan as Cyclops in this movie. I don't remember the kid who plays Storm or Nightcrawler in this movie, but both of them do really, really fantastic jobs in it. So kudos to them. I even like Jessica Chastain, even though she plays this really weird character who is kind of defined really quickly. You kind of wish you had some more time to sit with them and understand what's going on, but they lay it out really simply, and I'm glad it's not something like Ant-Man and the Wasp, where Lawrence Fishburne sits there with Ghost and spends about 8 minutes explaining what the hell she's doing and why, and by the time you get to the 4-minute mark, you I don't care, just move on. Sophie Turner did a really good job in going from moment to moment. Whether it made sense or not, that I'll get into in a couple minutes. Let's talk about the reshoots. The reshoots included something of the last act, which included a train scene. Without a doubt, very easily, the train scene is the best action scene in a superhero movie in 2019. Unequivocally. I don't give a shit about the other 3 movies that came out. The train scene was the X-Men letting loose. And it was gorgeous. It was wonderfully shot. It was well paced. Everyone had their moment to shine. And it really showed. I enjoyed the fact that in this movie, Cyclops actually got stuff to do, other than stand there and be like, oh, I'm Jean Grey's boyfriend. There was some of that, but on the whole, he actually got stuff done in this movie. If Nightcrawler, his scene in the train is amazing. It's kind of really sad. Matter of fact, a lot of the stuff I'm going to say is casting based. And I have to say, regardless of what anyone says other than Jennifer Lawrence, I would recast all of these people into the X-Men universe when they get folded into the MCU. I really would. McAvoy, Fassbender, Tye Sheridan, Sophie Turner, Nightcrawler, Nicholas Hoult, Storm, those people. All of them without a shadow of a doubt. Here's the bad part. The movie feels incredibly emotionally rushed. Unless you know kind of the backstory of these people, it's kind of hard because the new class, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and the rest, have only been introduced really halfway through Apocalypse. And this is a movie that is heavily depending on you being emotionally involved. And I can see people having issues with that. Also, there's a moment where Jean Grey is talking to another character, explaining something that we didn't see. And it was very jarring because I was just sitting there going, wait, did she do stuff that we didn't see on screen? So after that, when people come, you're like, wait, why are they there? You don't know it because we didn't see this happen, so how is that happening? They're trying to explain this emotion, but at the same time, we don't know what she's talking about because we didn't see it. I will say this movie could have used at least 15 to 20 minutes more, either with incorporating that scene that Jean Grey was explaining to I'll just say, to Magneto, or it could have used a little bit more moments between Scott and Jean, even though we know that they have a crush on each other in Apocalypse. In this movie, they don't share as much screen time, and we're supposed to be involved in them. It almost feels like there should have been another movie in between this movie and Apocalypse. Also, I will say this, they did drop the ball on some of the stuff that they introduced in Apocalypse. Like, in Apocalypse, Jean Grey uses the Phoenix Force. And here it's just dropped. That didn't happen, so whatever. This movie doesn't feel as disjointed as a lot of people are saying it is. Or at least in my opinion. Like, I've heard people comment on Jean Grey as a MacGuffin. And I don't agree with that because of the fact that she actually controls her own destiny for half the time until the third act. But in the third act, it absolutely makes sense. I wish we would... I'm not going to say what Jessica Chastain's role in the movie is because the trailers have left it very ambiguous. But I kind of liked her role. And I enjoyed her. And this is going to be Beverly in It Chapter 2. But other than that, I enjoyed that part and I liked them. She does hit a lot more emotional moments than you would think in a movie that's about an hour and 72 minutes, 77 minutes. Once again, it's all about how you are related to the franchise and these characters and how much you know the story, but without being a fanboy. One of the hideous critiques I feel like a lot of people have going into this movie, especially critics, is that critics are viewing this knowing what happened in the production cycle. And I think a lot of people have judged it wrongly because of that. And I know usually in my reviews I just talk about the movie and that's it, but I implore people to watch this movie. I think people went into this movie wanting to hate it. I think people went into this movie wanting to shit on it. I think a lot of people went in this movie just saying, I'm going to hate it no matter what it does because I want it to fold into the MCU. And I'm sorry, the MCU is not perfect. Not by a long shot. They gave us the worst fucking superhero movie of the year in Captain Marvel. I don't care how much it made in the box office. That movie was terrible. Brie Larson has the charisma of a fucking dead house cat. Plus the third act was fucking lunacy. And just so boring. And the final fight scene with Brie Larson in that spaceship was terribly lit. You couldn't tell what the hell was going on. Avengers Endgame was a movie based on how I can confuse you with fan service. It was an exercise in confusing you with fan service to blind you from the fact that the fucking story made no goddamn sense. And it was like, wait, you completely contradict what happened. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, and maybe that'll be a video of its own. But this is easily right now, if you don't count Brightburn as a superhero movie, the best superhero movie I've seen so far. While I'm not going to give it the highest of scores, because I realize it is asking a major leap at times, but as a enclosed story from beginning to end, I thought it was very enjoyable. I thought it was very moving. I thought it hit me at certain points. I did question certain things, but I'm not taking the production troubles into account. So for Dark Phoenix, I'm going to give it a 7.5, which is higher than any of the other movies. I gave Captain Marvel like a 2. I gave Shazam a 6. I gave it a 6.5. Avengers Endgame I gave a 6 because, once again, it did what it was supposed to do. It blinded me so much with fan service that I didn't realize how stupid the actual storyline was. This storyline actually had a through line. It was quick in its progression. It could have slowed down for a minute to let us absorb the emotions. It could have used another movie between Apocalypse and this, so we got to know these new characters more. But the returning characters, McAvoy, Fassbender, are very good in their roles. The new cast, like I said, I could have used more of them so I can get more invested in them. Jennifer Lawrence, she checked out at Apocalypse, and this movie, she's also one of the characters who I kind of wish there was an explanation on why she has bonds with certain characters. I also would want to make one point certain about Xavier's, James McAvoy's story arc. It feels really weird because we're not with going into spoilers, but it feels like he was supposed to be more egotistical, but as the movie goes on, you realize he was actually pretty right. And I might do a spoiler review so I can get into that, but he wasn't wrong. And at the end of the movie, he had to apologize for no reason, more or less. And that felt weird. It felt like the character that he was wrong to should have been apologizing to him. So, yeah, 7.5, that's my score for Dark Phoenix. And oh yeah, Mystique's line, that was totally put in there to be Me Too service moment, caused me to say fuck you to this movie both times I saw it. It's a terrible line. So anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts on Dark Phoenix. I know I'm alone in actually liking this movie. So if you didn't like it and you disagree with what I said, put it in the comments below, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.